So here we have my iPad, right? And I'm going to show you how to install the Procreate app if you don't have it installed already. So what I'm going to do here on my iPad to pull open the Spotlight search so that I can quickly find things. I got too many apps installed. I just swipe down from the middle and it brings up this little search thing, right? So if I hit the backspace key and clear that out, I can search for files or apps or media that's on my iPad. I am showing you how to download and install Procreate, so I'm looking for the App Store. So I'm just going to start typing app up here. Again, I'll go through that real quick so you can see how fast it could really be. And I just swipe down and then start typing app, and then App Store is this. So no matter how deep my nested folders on my iPad get, I can always get to all my apps real quick just by doing that. So I'm going to click on the App Store, and then here you have the Apple App Store. This is a different keyboard. Okay. This is the Today page where you'll come if you open up the App Store. So you'll want to go to search here and then just type Procreate up in the search. Create. It's all one word. All right. And you get some stuff up at the top, but what you want is Procreate. It looks like a little rainbow brush stroke here. That's the icon for Procreate. And I think it costs $9.99. So it's not a free app, but it's totally worth $10. Like there's so many things that you can do in Procreate that it can replace a lot of other apps. I mean, it's not going to replace them for me. I like all the apps, but it can do a lot of things. So this will ask you to buy it if you haven't bought it. I've already bought it, so it's just going to ask me to open up Procreate. Now, the way this presentation is going to go, I'm going to give you a quick overview of where all the tools we're going to use are in Procreate, and then we're going to have a little 15-minute break. And during that break, if you need to install Procreate or whatever, if you have questions, if you want to cover something specific, let me know. So this is just a quick overview of Procreate if you are unfamiliar with it. Right. Here we are in Procreate. It will show you all the tiles of the work that you've been doing. I think if you've just installed it, there might be some demo content in there for you to play with. This is just stuff I've been drawing and doodling with. We're going to start a new project here. So to do that, we hit this little plus button up in the corner to create a new canvas. And there's a bunch of options in here for the different sizes of your canvas. So I'm going to pick a square. It's the first option here, 2048 by 2048 pixels. That's just plain old square. And I like squares for this kind of artwork because I'm interested in posting them on social media. Right? I want to put this stuff on Facebook or Instagram. And I've found that just using a square is the easiest method. Right? It looks good everywhere. Whereas if you use like an 8x10 or a normal portrait photo, the Instagram grid will resize it to a square, and maybe you might not have options about how you want to crop it, and it can get messy. So if we keep it a square, it's going to look good no matter where you put it, and it's easy to work with. So I'm going with a square. You could also do the normal size piece of paper or something if you wanted to print this out, or whatever size you want. Square works for me, so let's pick a square, and then we just get this plain white square. And this is the interface. This is the primary interface of Procreate. You have your canvas here. You can squeeze it to make it smaller. You can kind of turn your hand like this to rotate the canvas while you're working on it. Over here on the left, we have controls that you can grab with your thumb here if you're kind of into it, so you don't have to take your primary hand off the screen. So you can adjust your brush size while you're working here with your thumb, and also the opacity of your brush. And opacity means just like how much ink it applies, how transparent or translucent it is. So these are the controls here, and then you also have a little color picker, which is super handy if you're working with something and you want to grab a specific color. So there's only a couple of controls over here on the left-hand side, and they're pretty easy to use. It is kind of sad that they don't label them in any way. They just put these little bars on the screen, and then you got to figure out what they are. But that's what they are. Now, up at the top, we have the gallery here. This will take us back to that main gallery that showed all the little thumbnails of the work that we've been doing. And then we have this little gear icon, and that's the actions menu. And inside the actions menu, this is there's a bunch of stuff, actually. It's defaulting to share here, but let's start with add. In the actions menu, you can either insert a file that you have, like on Dropbox or Google Drive or something you want to work on. You could insert a photo from a camera roll, or import one from your iPhone, or just take one if you wanted to and then work on that. So this is where you get your basic add layers, import photos, stuff like that. There's some tools here for your canvas. You can crop it or resize the canvas if you decide later it needs to be something other than a square. And there's an animation assistant, which if we have time, I'll show you how it works. It's really, really cool. This is how you can make simple and maybe even not so simple animations in Procreate, which is, it's rad. Then we have some drawing guides here, which puts some overlays and stuff over your image to help you guide lines and whatnot, like graph paper, so you could make straight lines or follow a accurate spiral, things like that. Next, we have some options to flip the canvas around horizontally and vertically and whatnot. Then your share menu's in here. So this is how we're gonna finally save our artwork and then export it out to a JPEG or whatever format we're gonna use on the internet. So we got some options there. There's some options here for processing time-lapse videos, which I haven't played with yet, but I'm sure this is pretty cool. We have some general preferences. You can switch the interface around. Like, I'm right-handed, so the default I think is for right-handed people, but if you switch this to right-hand interface, it'll move these brush tools on the left-hand side over to the right-hand side, so it's more comfortable for you, which is nice. And then you have some just other options about connecting your stylus. If you have a different pen like this and how you want the pressure sensitivity to react, you can change all that if you have a certain feel that you like or that you're used to from other types of work. And then you have your help here, which gives you, the handbook and stuff like that. So that's all the stuff that's in the gear menu here, which is just basically like the file menu in Windows or a Mac. And then we have some options here for adjustments. These are for blurs and sharpening. This is where we can change our colors and work with curves and levels and stuff for our lights and our darks and our shadows. This kind of stuff here I would use for photography work, for touching up photos. So this is these are the tools that you would probably use in Photoshop if you were working on a portrait or a landscape image, right? So this is kind of photography type stuff, but it's the wonderful world of Procreate. So we can mix and match these photography tools with painting tools, which opens up a new world of creativity. We can do things that are impossible, which is cool. So those are all adjustments. We're not going to use that much today. Then we have a tool for making selections of things, which is like, say you've got a family here and you want to select one person out of the family. So you could just circle around that person, or draw that person in with the selection tool, and then you could do selective adjustments on just that one piece of the image. And then we have our transform tool, and the transform tool lets us move stuff around, right? It lets us resize, rotate, and move shapes around as we work with them. So we're gonna get into using that a lot. Awesome. So that's the boring stuff about Procreate. That's the technical stuff. Over on the right hand side controls is where all the cool, fun, painty artist stuff is, right? So the first one here we have is brushes, and Procreate comes with a ton of cool, like really usable brushes. For the mandalas we're going to draw, we're probably going to use these ink ones because I like them best so far. I've tried a few of these, and the ink ones have worked out. I like the studio pen, which I think is a thing. I have no drawing background, so a lot of these brushes means that they're intended for a purpose, and I don't know that purpose. But there's ones that I like, and there's ones that I don't like. You can also import new brushes into Procreate to make your mandalas sick, because you could just get a brush that makes an ornate leaf, and then you could go around and brush leaves into your mandala, or just shapes, so you can get as crazy as you want with brushes. You can find all sorts of different types of brushes on the internet, and you just download them and they open up in Procreate, and then they show up in here. We have a smudge tool, which is like if you lick your finger and smudge the paint, you can kind of like blend colors and stuff that way, or even if it's a pencil brush like graphite and you smudge it, it'll smudge like a pencil would on paper, which is pretty cool. Then we have a standard eraser, which lets you erase your mistakes. And I got dog hair on my iPad. I thought it was lines I drew, but it was just Sophie hair, studio dog hair. And then next to that, we have our layers, and layers are super important. So we start out with our background layer. If I click on that, it gives me a background color picker, right? So we can just pick the color of the background. I like looking at a black background myself for most things. So I'm just going to go ahead and set this to black because I like it better. So I'm going to hit black, and then I'll set my, when I start drawing, I'll draw with white because it'll look like chalkboard chalk or chalkboard pen. You don't have to do that, though. You're not going to have to follow along exactly with me. Obviously, we're drawing little sketches and doodles. So you can do your own thing. I'm just showing you where all the things are, and then we're going to go through it together. Next to the layers panel here, we have colors, which is fun. We have our general color wheel. You can select around the wheel what hue you want, and then you can control the brightness, or not the brightness, the saturation of that color right here. And I guess also the brightness too, right? Or the luminance, if that's how you like to refer to it. So you can pick lots and lots of colors with this really simple interface. But if you don't like that, if it feels unnatural to you, or if it's not working out, down here, there's some options for different color pickers. So if I switch where it says disk over to classic, I'm going to get this whole different experience, right? I can get the same result, but I could use these sliders to control the hue or the saturation or the luminance, right? So it's just a different way to get to the same thing. Then there's harmony, which is helpful because as I move this color, the primary color, its harmonious secondary color is this other little circle, right? So it should be its complementary color right there. So that's a quick way to come up with colors that are going to work together, is to be like, oh, I want a kind of red here. And then I can also put that teal in as well. And those two colors are theoretically going to work well together. Next, we have values. If you actually had specifications from someone, maybe they said, this is our company's color and we use goldenrod yellow, and goldenrod yellow, our goldenrod yellow is hex code 3251A4, right? So if you actually have that information, you could type it in here if you were so inclined. I don't know why you would. Everything else is better. And then we have some palettes here, and the palettes are just predefined sets of colors that should work together. And you can make your own palettes, which is very cool, or you could find palettes on the internet, and it comes with a couple stock ones here, and I like them, so great. That's the colors. That's the general interface of Procreate, and I think that being said, I'm going to do the break now to just give you some time to install Procreate. We're going to come back in about 15 minutes, and then we'll start drawing. Tell your friends, get everybody, get the family. It's going to be awesome. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I hope by this time you've had an opportunity to install Procreate. I'm going to assume that you have, and let's get started with the drawing bit. All right. Now we're going to swap over into the wonderful world of my iPad. Here we go. Bum-ba-da-dum. And we have my iPad. I'm going to open up Procreate. Procreate's the app with the little rainbow brush stroke. And I'm going to start a new document. So open up Procreate and go to this little plus. I'm going to create a square. Right. So now I have a blank square. It's 2048 pixels by 2048 pixels, which is enough resolution that your pen strokes will look like pen strokes instead of getting all pixelated and like blocky. It's enough resolution there that your strokes can look like strokes. Okay, so to get started, what we're going to want to do is put a guide on the screen so we have something to work off of. First, I'm going to go over to my little gear here, right? And then let's take a look at Canvas. So click the little gear in your menu and then go to Canvas. And then we have this drawing guide. So if you turn on the drawing guide, by default, it's going to give you this a grid, like graph paper. So if you were doing like technical drawing or something like that, it would be very helpful. But there's more options for the grid, and we can change it around to suit our needs. And this is where Procreate gets amazing. So let's hit the drawing guides. And you see we have a few different options down here on the bottom of Procreate. There's the 2D grid, and we have some options here to mess with its opacity, how much of it you can see, like how visible it is. I guess I have to keep that up fairly high so you can see it on your screen. So I'm going to do that. The thickness of the lines, so you can make really thick lines or thin lines depending on probably what sort of brush strokes you're going to use. And then the size of the grid, so we can make it, super tiny boxes or kind of big boxes. I hope you can actually see this resolution. Let me turn it all the way up so I can be sure. All right, this is as dark as it can get. So here's our grid, and I can adjust the size of this grid. Then we have assisted drawing, which is amazing, and we're going to see. I'll show you. But next, let's look at the isometric guide. And remember that these things that we're looking at right now are just little overlays that are going to go on the screen to help you draw symmetrically. Right. We have this isometric grid, which is a bunch of triangles stuck together. So if you want to draw in triangles, this would be good for a mandala. If you were drawing little shapes inside each of these little triangles, eventually, as you work your way out, it's going to be a very detailed drawing. Then we have perspective, which is a vanishing point here. You can kind of define. I don't really know how this works, actually. It's funky. Let's see what it does real quick. So we'll go to perspective, and I'll just leave it the way it is right now and draw on it. And it just kind of gives me, I guess, if I wanted to draw inside these lines to make like a sunburst or something, I could do that. It's kind of neat. Get back to let's not get distracted, Luke. So that's our perspective, and you can move this around any which way you desire, apparently. And then we have symmetry, and symmetry is where things get cool. So if you click on symmetry, it's going to divide the screen in half. All right. Let me just hit done here so you can see what I'm talking about. And as I draw on one side, it mirrors what I'm drawing on the other side, right? So I can very quickly make pretty complex drawings by just mirroring my pen stroke from one side to the other. I'm sorry about, I'm clearly making a vagina here. I didn't intend to do that, but I guess that means that I'm finally a real artist. So that's what symmetry does, and this is what we're going to use to make our fancy mandala. Let's go back to the drawing guide options, though, for a second. So, I'm hitting the wrong button. So in our wrench, we go to Canvas, and then Edit Drawing Guide, and then let's look at some of these other hidden, well, they're not really hidden, but they're kind of tucked away, options. If we hit this little Options button, we get some more options about how we want our symmetry guide to work. So right now we have it in its vertical orientation. So we did the example. If I draw, it will mirror it on the other side vertically. If we change this to horizontal, then we can do something real quick, like let's draw a mountain range. Oh, here's some mountains, happy little mountains. And now by default, it makes us our reflection of those mountains. So that's one way to use this. Also, we could just do something, some shapes or lines and squigglies and draw beads or whatever, and you can come up with some pretty ornate designs that way. Let's go back to our options and see what else we can do. So, wrench, canvas, edit drawing guide. Now, options, right? So, wrench, canvas, edit drawing guide, and then we want to go to symmetry. Make sure you're on symmetry. That's what's making the mirror effect happen with my pen, and then options. And now we can have a quadrant. Right? Let's use a quadrant. Now this is pretty funky. This is cool for a mandala. It gives us a little circle in the middle, like one of those things they used to put in the middle of the pizza, but now they're too cheap to put in the middle of the pizza. It would keep the pizza from all breaking apart or something. Actually, those little table things, you remember those things? Whatever happened to those little pizza table things? Anyway, it puts a little pizza table in the middle of the quadrant, and then as I draw, let me just hit done here. As I draw, my image is reflected in the quadrant. And I just want to make clear, like, I'm not a very naturally gifted drawing person, as I'm sure you can tell, but anybody can do this. I'm really not I'm not making straight lines. It doesn't really matter. The computer's helping a lot. And I'll show you one more trick here. As I'm making these lines in Procreate, there's a line straightening function, which is pretty messed up. So if I just draw a line here, I could do a straighter line. I'm gonna draw the straightest line that I can draw right now, and here it is. I'm trying to be super careful. And there we go. It's a pretty straight line. It's not too bad, but check out what Procreate will do for me if I just, at the end of my pen stroke, I just hold the pen down. Watch what it does to the line I draw. See how it just snaps it into perfectly straight? So you can use that inside each of these little quadrants. Let's say I just want to make a diamond here, and I can't really draw a perfectly straight diamond, but if I just hold it, Procreate will straighten that line for me, which is amazing. And then if it gets it wrong, it gives you some options up here to change how it is working, right? And you can move these around and make some complex shapes and change your work after the fact. So all that is crazy tools. Beautiful. So now we have that. Let's go back to our drawing guide because there's more in there. So let's go to the wrench and then edit drawing guide, and then make sure you're on symmetry, right? And then let's hit options and change to radial. So we hit the radial button and then click done. So let me just get rid of my mess here. To get rid of my mess on this layer, what I'm going to do, I'll just show you this. So I'm going to hit my layers button up here. It's the one that's two little boxes on top of each other. Second button in from the right. I hit the layers button, and then you can see I've got my background is one layer, and then I have layer one that was just created for me when I started drawing. If I swipe this layer around, I get some options here, and one of them is clear. So if I hit clear, it'll just get rid of everything and I can start fresh. So there's a bunch of ways to do that. I could have used my eraser tool. I could have just painted white over everything, but that's a fast way to clear up a layer. So now my layer is clear, and I'm just going to make my guide here a little bit darker so that I'm sure that you can see it. Right? So I'm going to go gallery. I'm going to go to the wrench here and then edit drawing guide. I'm going to make sure that my opacity is all the way up and that my thickness is all the way up too so that you can see that. And then this little rainbow line right under drawing guides, this is controlling the color of those lines. So if your creation, if it looks stupid with the blue, you can change the color of that line this way to make it either stand out or get out of the way, depending on how you feel about it, right? So let's just make it a red. So now I have a dark red canvas here, and you can see everything split up into this is 8 triangles that are kind of around each other, and each one of these triangles is going to be mirrored to all the other ones. So I'm just going to draw a little circle. Boop. Well, that was easy. That was cool. And then I'll draw a little squiggly. Whoa, man. Keep going. Cool. And then I'm just gonna, well, I don't even have to draw a complete circle. I'm just gonna I'm gonna draw kind of a circle here and try and make all the quadrants connect. So let's do that. I'm just gonna and connect them like that. So that's basically how it's done. And now we can create more and more stuff around our thingy. These are the artistic terms, actually. If you look this up, if you go to art school, you will put the little doodlies in the little thingy boxes. And that's all there is to making stuff. Now, this is pretty ugly. Let's start over. I like this though. I like this radial kind of drawing guide. So let's clear my layer. I'm gonna hit layers, swipe it over, and then I'm gonna hit clear. So now I have my fresh new canvas. I'm gonna change my color here. So hit the little color thing. I'm just gonna drag it all the way down to black. No matter where you're at on the color wheel here, if you just drag to the bottom left corner, it's always gonna be black, and this is always gonna be white. So that's handy. So you can just swipe straight down and you'll get back to black and white. So now I have black as my color, and let's see what I'm using for a brush right now. Right now I am using a studio pen, which is in inking. So Procreate comes with all these different brushes for this kind of stuff. So far I've found that the inking works best. The reason for that is that with pencils and stuff, when you create a shape, it's porous. There's holes in your line. It's not a solid line. So when we later go and try to fill those shapes with color, it's not bounding because there's little breaks in the graphite if you're working with a pencil or a charcoal kind of medium. So the pen works great because when you close a shape, it's really closed all the way around, and then you can actually fill that with color later. So I'm using the studio pen because I think it's cool. And I'm just going to start drawing. So some of the shapes that I learned, I'm going to start with a circle here. I'm just going to, I don't even have to draw the full circle. Like you see, it just kind of makes, it's not really a circle. It looks kind of like one of those Celtic things. I'm not sure what you call that. But I'm going to make a couple of them. And then when I get to the end of the line, this time I'm going to start just holding down and letting Procreate help straighten my lines a little bit for me. Actually, I don't even want all, this looks like a target. That's not where I was trying to go. So to undo these strokes that I just made, all I have to do is just double tap with 2 fingers on my screen, and each one of those goes away. And I can keep doing it and taking them away. So I just wanted the one little thing there. Cool. So now I have a circle with another circle around it, and let's draw a leaf shape, which is, you know, it's kind of like a pear, something. You know what a leaf looks like. So let's do this. We're drawing a leaf shape. That's not too awful bad for something that doesn't doodle very well. And then let's make another one in here. And I'm just gonna, well, actually, now it's a diamond. It was gonna be a leaf, but then I messed up, and now it's a diamond. So now we have a little flower type situation with a diamondy thing behind it. Happy little accent. Let's put a circle around that. How? So I want to make sure that my circle starts and ends on these lines here so that it can connect. So I'm going to start here. Maybe I'll put another little dot over here so I have like I know where I'm going. And then that's it. That's not a circle. That's not a circle, but it'll do. It looks kind of cool. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. Now I can zoom out with my fingers by pinching here. We can turn this to work on it on different rotations by just kind of, see, I'm just turning it with my fingers. So it's super intuitive and fun, and it can be fast too as you're, working with one hand with the pencil, and then you've got another hand here. Ooh, I made a stroke in the middle of these leaves. See this line that came across all of them? So I'm going to use my 2 fingers. I'm holding the pen like I would hold a pen, and I'm just going to tap with those 2 fingers. Squeeze it out, and then let's put some little detailed things in these leaves. I'm just going to make lines and little shapes inside some of these leaves, and we'll see what this starts to turn into. So let's just go bloop. We'll do some of these, and then we'll put another leaf inside the leaf, and then we'll put some kind of this over that, and then up here maybe we'll just put some little whoop Whoopies. Some little dots. This is a diseased flower for some reason. This flower has now got the measles. Is measles still a thing? Is it gonna be a thing? Are we? I heard somewhere. Are we scared about the measles or smallpox or something? I don't know. Anyway, let's stay away. This is not about smallpox. No, that's cool. I kind of like it. It has that kind of strawberry feel to it. Now I'm gonna zoom in and try and do something funky in the middle here. So I'm zooming in a lot. If you remember, when this is zoomed out, this is a really small area. So what I'm doing in here might look cool. Look how big my brush looks relatively. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my brush smaller for this. As small as it gets. So let's see what that looks like. Now you see it's kind of pixelated because we're so zoomed in and we're not at a super, super, super high resolution. We're just doing Facebook kind of resolution right now. If we were going to print, we could do this with a higher resolution and we would have even more room to expand before things started getting pixelated. But it doesn't matter. I can still work with this pixelated stuff, right? I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to start, let's do some of these kind of geometric designs. Right? Boom. That's pretty cool. And then I'll just put some lines in here. And then let's put some squigglies in here. Right, so it looks like some kind of ancient rune or artifact from an Incan civilization that was recently discovered in Belize. So now as we zoom out, that is super cool. I mean, that's way better than I could draw by myself. And Procreate helped me do that really fast. So you can see we still have our guide on. Let's just, for reference, let's turn our guide off and see what this looks like without the red lines in the middle of it now. So I'm going to go to my wrench and then just turn the drawing guide off. And look at that. That's pretty cool. So now let's start working with color. We have a outline of a shapy thing here, which we made really quick with the symmetry. Now, if you don't have an iPad, or if you don't have an Apple Pencil, or if you don't have Procreate, whatever, you could do this with your finger. I don't know how well that would work out. I'm sure you could get really good at it. People get really good at pretty crazy things if you practice. But I'm going to show you again later today how to do the same thing in Photoshop with a inexpensive Wacom tablet. So we can do pretty much the same thing. Actually, Photoshop each of these apps has their pros and cons. So I'll show you how to do it in Photoshop and what kind of different designs you can get out of that, because there is benefit to using both of them even for the same thing. They have strengths. Procreate's really got cool pens and pencils and it's so fast, and Photoshop kind of, I mean, they're there. You can deck out Photoshop, but it's just not as fun, right? It's not as moving stuff around, dragging stuff around with your hands. All right, so I like blue. Let's pick some blues. I'm gonna get a kind of middle color blue here. Yeah, that's my middle color blue, right? And then let's see. You see how I did that? I just kind of grabbed this color blob and drag it somewhere. Now, if you drag this color somewhere that's closed, that has a closed line, you know how I was talking about how the pencils don't, it will just fill those areas. See, I just dropped it there and all these little segments were closed off, so it was cool enough to fill that area for me. And now let's fill some colors in. So let's zoom in. I made a little line there I didn't mean to make, so I hit 2 fingers to undo it. If you accidentally use 2 fingers to undo something and you want to redo that, then you can just tap with 3 fingers and it'll come back. So that's pretty cool. Now let's pick some, let's get a red. Let's grab a middle red. So I'm going to go with kind of middle of the road colors for the first round, and then maybe I'll throw in some lighter colors afterwards and then some darker colors. So we'll have different shades of the colors to make it look like we spent some time on it. So let's make sure it's a red and not a brown at least. Let's go with this color red, blood red. It's more like a Rust-Oleum rust red. Let's fill in And then let's grab a green too, because why not? Red, green, blue. Boom. And let's keep doing that. I'll just, for efficiency, let's stay on green a little while and just make some of these shapes green. Maybe not the whole center like that. I don't want to do that. But let's move out a little bit. What would be green here? The leaves would be green, so let me just put that color back for a second. Let's make our leaves green. I'll just drag this green into our leaf. Boom! Procreate, man. It's $10. This thing costs $10. Cool. So that's our green. Now let's go back to our blue. No, let's get a yellow, because flowers and stuff have yellow. I said I was going to go with middle yellows, but I'll go with this mustard colored yellow. Cool, that's yellow. Let's throw one of them in there for the little seedy things. Actually, let's make this yellow darker for the seedy things, and I guess more orange. Let's make it not yellow at all. Let's make it brown. Boom. Yeah, that's ugly. Let's make it orange, and I'll just make it a brighter orange. That's better. That's what I was going for. What color should we make the diamond, do you think? The diamond's pretty cool. I'm going to grab... I like blue a lot, as you can tell from the blue light that's shining off the side of my face right now, because I have a blue light there because I think it looks cool, and this room is blue, and my background's blue, and pretty much everything I do has the blue hue, tint, shade, coloring, whatever. I like blue is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to take this blue, boop, and make that middle diamond blue, and then let's make this outer thing some kind of red blue. And now we have, actually there's still a bunch of blank spots in here, so let's grab some other colors. What haven't we used a lot? Let's grab some purples, and I'm just gonna start putting some purple around, and then let's go to I feel like I want there to be more colors in the world than there are. So that's cool. Different shades of purple in there. And now, mistake. Zoom out. Now let's fill in some of these smaller ones. I'm just gonna do a bunch of different blues in the center. A darker blue, a lighter blue, some other kind of grayish slate blue in here, and then we'll get some really saturated blues like that. Make it a little bit lighter inside there. Whoop. See what happened there is I actually dragged my color to the line instead of in between the lines, so it made the line that color. That's not what I wanted, so 2 fingers to undo. And then let's get inside there. Get inside there. And then boom. Da 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 da. Art. And then that's a lot of blue, so let's throw some red in the center too. Give me a bright red. Ba ba da ba. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun. This is kind of what it's like today. It's kind of like Indiana Jones, what we're doing here. Somewhere along the line, I touched something and put these marks here that I kind of actually like. It's a mistake, but I'm going to leave it. They look like little seeds or something. I didn't mean to do that. I just didn't catch it. So here's what we've got so far. I don't like the red. Let's get rid of the red around it all. I think that looks terrible. Let's make that black so the whole thing pops out more. Cool. And then actually let's make this whole background black. That is cool, right? So it didn't take me long to do this at all. And now let's try some other brushes. So this whole time I've been using this studio pen, which it has some assisted smoothing in it. So the lines that I make are less choppy than my actual hand is, which is kind of cool. There are other pens that give you different effects. Let's see what a technical pen does. I bet it's technical. I'm going to change my color to white now because we're working on a black background. And let's zoom in. Let's turn our drawing guide back on, right? And just add to this a little bit. So the wrench, and then here's our drawing guide. I'll just turn it back on. And now we've got our red lines that we're dividing this image for us again. So let's keep drawing inside this blobbiest area. Blobular? Is blobular a word? I hope it is. If not, it is now. Let's just draw inside this here blobular area. And I'm just going to fill this in with lines and dots and shapes and kind of nothing hard to draw. Nothing planned. Nothing really matters because, one, it's a mandala. Everybody can make these and you see them all over the place. There's no real harm if it goes badly. And two, because you only have to hit 2 fingers to undo any mistakes. So if you really, really wanted to, with all the assisted functions here of like smoothing the pens and straightening the lines and the symmetry function, you could make this perfect if you spent the time to get all the lines straight and color in everything in a sensical way, more so than I just did right there. You could make this absolutely perfect. It just take you a long time, which I guess is the point of one of these. I guess I don't really know how these things started, but I think the point is that it's supposed to take a long time and it's supposed to be impermanent, I think. So some years back, my family pitched in and got me a ticket to go to a song school. It was a songwriting camp in Colorado. It was a week-long thing. And I went out to Colorado to the Red Rocks area. It was Lyon, Colorado, and camped out with a bunch of filthy hippies and sang songs and wrote and worked on our skills. And during that week while I was there, there was this Tibetan monk troop. I don't know what you call them. It was a monastery, a group of people that traveled around, and all they did that entire week while we were all doing like workshops and writing songs is they worked on a sand mandala. And it was like a pen, but they filled up their pens with different colors of sand. And then they just went around a grid marker or a grid, like a overlay guide, and just tapped out grain of sand. Oh, every time I tap it, it's bringing up my color window. Oh, that's funny. They just tapped on it like, let me get it. Yeah. Tap, 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 and it would knock out 1 grain of sand at a time. And they did this whole mandala. It took like, I think it was 4 of them, and they all stood around and did their quadrants. It took them a week, and then at the end of song school, they all took that in front of everybody. It was a big like ceremony thing, and they just flushed it away in the river. They were just like, whoosh, and all the sand, went away, and everybody clapped. And it was a demonstration about how nothing really lasts forever. Everything's impermanent, and to live in the moment, because that was the point. The point of the mandala is making the mandala. It's not the final result. Once it's finished, it's kind of finished, right? Or at least that's what I took away from that. It was interesting. I wouldn't be able. I don't know if I could do it. If you they must have put at least 40 hours into it. All of them. I don't know if I could just throw it away after that. I mean, I've had to do that at different jobs for work and whatnot before. I've had to throw something I worked on a long time away, and that sucked. But imagine doing 1 grain of sand and making something so detailed. Anyway, I have a picture of that somewhere. I'll dig it out someday. So let's not get distracted by stories. Let's draw. I'll do a little like a teardrop type thing. Ooh. And So this is starting to look not that great around, especially here in these lines. This doesn't look cool, so I'm gonna use this eraser. Ooh, that's not doing what I want at all. So what am I gonna do here? I'm on a layer. Unfortunately, I made a mistake here, and you can see we're gonna have to live with it at this point. But look at these two layers I have here. I have my background color, but my background color is set to white. So what I did was I filled this whole area with black, and instead of doing that, I should have just changed this background color, because now it's on there. I can't, if I erase the black, if I erase any of these lines, I erase the black with it. So I'm just erasing all the way through the whole image when all I really want to do is erase this gray line. So that's unfortunate. And whatever, I'll just hit back a couple times, a bunch of times. Impermanence, right? I'm throwing it into the river. That's all. I'm just throwing it into the river. Let's see how far back it lets me go. Bam, 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 bam. And oh, look at that. Let's get rid of this red color because that's bad. Let's just fill that with white for now. Or that gray color. That's not even a full white. Let's get white. That's not white either. So what I'm going to do is see this little box in between your brush size and your opacity. That's the color picker. So if you just click on that, it brings up a little radial thing where you can pick another color on the screen, and it's showing me what color I have selected. So let's grab this white color. So now we're really white, the same white as the background, and then I will drag that to this area. Cool. Let's just keep drawing on white then with black, and let's try a different pen. I didn't like that technical pen. I was getting much better results with this studio pen, but let's try sketching. Let's try some pencils, and I'll show you what fill can do if you're drawing in pencil. So I'm gonna pick this HB pencil, whatever that means. Oh, actually, yeah, it looks kind of fine. I don't want it to be that fine. Let's pick this Procreate pencil. Looks like a normal pencil to me. So now I've got a pencil selected, and I'm black, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a new layer. So the stuff that we create from this point forward will be on its own layer. Then we can choose to turn it on and off. So let's create a new layer here. And let's turn our drawing guide back on by going to the branch, and then turn on your drawing guide. All right? And now I'm going to start doing some drawing. But for some reason, we're not getting my stuff here replicated across. So I'm going to hit Edit, Drawing Guide, make sure I'm on Symmetry. I'm going to hit Options, and then I believe it's this Assisted Drawing option here that got turned off somehow. So make sure Assisted Drawing is on if it's not working for you. Yep, now it's working. So you can see this pencil is drawn more like a pencil, like graphite. It's kind of chalky, and I'm just gonna draw a circle here. Right now, this looks cool. I like things that have this kind of vibe to them, but this looks cool. But it kind of breaks if I drag black now into this circle I created. Oh, I did fill it, but sometimes like that, it's not really a complete line that's bound, I guess, in this time and space. If I make this really dark, it would be. Right. Let's make sure there's no gap in the line here. Now it'll fill. It looks a little weird around the edges, but that works. So that's why the fill tool doesn't work very great with pencils and charcoal and stuff like that. So I'm going to go back to the pen that I actually like because I want to make this look cool. So let's go to the brush library, and then I'm going to use inking, and then this studio pen is great. I like it. And I'm going to start drawing some. Ooh, that's a really thin line, so let's turn this up to, I'm going to make it 10%. See what 10% does for us. That's a little too big, so let's make it 6, 5. 5's good. 5's what I wanted. And then I'll do some kind of spiny wheat looking thing in the middle here. It's like a Boy Scout Weebelo situation. I'll do a couple of them. And they're just fine lines. I'm drawing in these little quadrants in kind of this little, it's almost like a triangle shaped area. You can't really do any of this wrong, which is what's cool about it. And then I'll just put like a little diamond in here, and then some kind of little squiggly snaky thing in here, which looks dumb. So I'm going to get rid of both of those because they look bad. That was not a good diamond. I want a diamond here though, so I'm going to use that little snappy function. So I'll make my diamond. Actually, you know what I'm going to do so this looks cool? I'm going to turn this like so. And then let's make our diamond, or the diamond I'm going to make, right along this symmetry line, this red line here. So I'll go, whoop. This way I only have to draw half of it. And then it was so bad that Procreate didn't even realize it was a diamond. So here we go. Let's see, what would be the halfway point of a diamond? Like right here-ish? Yeah, so I'll put a dot here, and a dot here, and a dot there. That's going to be our diamond. And I'll go, whoop. Connect the dots, la 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 la. Connect the dots, la 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 la. Remember that? From Pee-wee? Mecca lecca hi, mecca hiney ho. Mecca lecca hi, mecca hiney ho. I remember that. Pee-wee had the word of the day. When you hear the word of the day, you would scream. Today's word of the day is toothbrush. When you hear toothbrush, everybody scream. I remember he had Cherry. Cherry was just a chair that talked for some reason. And then poor old Paul Rubens went and got himself his reputation besmirched. Still, great in that movie Snatch, though. Was he even in Snatch? What was that movie he was in where he was like a drug runner? Whatever. Enough about Paul Rubens. I did like Jambi a lot, though. Jambi, the Mecca lecca hi, mecca honey ho. Jambi was pretty cool. Oh, see, so one of these lines wasn't. This looks like it's completely closed off, but Procreate didn't fill it. Maybe because the line is not fully opaque. I'm not sure why that didn't work. So actually, it looks like right now you can see my black lines are kind of gray, and that's because earlier I hit with my thumb this opacity slider. So the opacity of my brush is not at 100% right now. If I turn that all the way up, my lines will get darker and blacker like they should have been this whole time. Well, since I'm on blue, they're going to get darker and bluer. Let's go back to black, and let's do some more. Now I have a obvious straight black line. And let's fill some of those colors. They're not the greatest circles. I was going for circles there. That's okay. And we'll pick some of these funky colors. These funky kind of browny orange yellows. Ugliest colors I could possibly pick. But you know why I'm picking yellows now? It's because, oh, damn it. Is this one not closed? Yeah, see, tricky. So if I get in really close, see there's this little gap on the line where I didn't connect the dots. So now let me just go back to black. Let's just make sure that's really connected. And now I should be able to fill this line with my ugly browny wheat color. The wheat did this to me. It's making me think of all these ugly colors. Shit. Did we miss another gap here in this line? I don't expect that behavior, so anyway, it must be one of the other lines. It must be this line that's not connected. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with that anymore, though. We'll just leave it the way it is. I'll not fill that area. I'll draw in that area with black. So go black, zoom into our little area here, and I'm going to do one of these. They call this sawtooth, maybe, I think. It looks like sawtooth. That's what I would call it. I'm going to do this little sawtooth. I should know some of these. There's like herringbone and whatever different types of patterns that they put on guitars. I used to like know all those, but not anymore. So that looks cool. Let's go into that and make it even more funky by putting some more, like maybe every other one will make these A's. A. You know what? A. A. Alright, sorry. I don't even know what I am doing. But that's the thing about these things, is that they're just supposed to be patterns. There is no real point, I don't think. I might be giving you bad information about that. I honestly don't know anything about these other than they look cool. And I just learned how to do it this week in Procreate, so that's why we're doing it. Alright, that looks cool. I don't really love the wheat so much, but whatever. Let's see what different background colors look like now. So I'm going to click on my layers here and go back down to my background, and let's just play with the background color and see what we can do. Now we have, that looks cool. It's nice that as I move the color around, it's showing me the live update, and I suspect that the studio dogs is about to start barking at the mailman, so we'll see. You want to take odds on it? Who's that? Well, she's very alert right now, just in case somebody's delivering something. I'm going to go with, this very dark red. And then let's turn off the drawing guide for a minute so we can see what this looks like. It's pretty cool. Now we've made our first mandala. Actually, this looks undone in the middle here. It's also annoying that it's not fully opaque because I had this turned down. So let's just go over these lines and make them, full. It'll look better. And then we can also fill these little areas with color, which I think will make the whole thing look better. Unfortunately, if you'll remember, about 35 seconds ago, we turned off the drawing guide and the symmetry probably. Oh, no. Symmetry's still on, even though we don't have the drawing guide. That's interesting. I didn't know that, but it's cool. So we don't even have to have the guide on to be able to do our assisted drawing. That's awesome, because that guide can sometimes get in the way. Let's fill. What color should these be? We got green. Well, let's go over to this little harmony thing. And I don't know why it's just showing me blacks right now, but let's go over to, I'm going to use the color picker in this little box over here. I'm going to grab the green that we used previously in this leaf, right? I want this green. So it'll set my color to that color green up here. And now I'm in the complementary colors switcher here where it says harmony. So it's telling me that the complementary color to this green is this color, kind of purple magenta-y. So if I click on that, let's fill this stuff with that color. And maybe that'll really look cool when we zoom back out and see all the green surrounding it. Whoa, this looks like Deadpool. If I made that red, that would look like a little Deadpool. Let's put red in it just because I think that's funny. And then I'm going to use my color picker again here to pick that purple we used because I lost it now. And then I'm going to drag that into these little areas that didn't quite get filled. That was not where we wanted to go. Right in here. I guess I'll just draw it in. That works too. Just fill this area in where it looks bad. Right? So you don't have to use that color tool to fill in the color. It's fast and convenient, but sometimes it looks cool if you do the shading yourself with different types of brushes or pastels or whatever. So far I've only been writing with black, but we can put colors in here too and just draw whatever. So hopefully this is helpful and you're having fun with this, and Procreate is something that is attainable for you, obtainable. If it's not to fret. I can also show you how to just draw this without the cool symmetry functions. They just, honestly, for me anyway, it's not going to come out anywhere nearly as good as this kind of assisted drawing. This is way better than I am technically. So that's cool. And that's using a computer as a multiplier. That's what we should be using computers for in general, is multipliers for the things we want to do. I think. Purists may disagree. That's okay. So yeah, I can show you how to draw this by hand as well. So let me take a look at the time. It is 11:30 right now. So let me just show you real quickly how I would draw this by hand. So I'm going to use the iPad for it, but we're going to pretend that this is just a regular pencil and paper, right? So I'm going to make a new document here. New square. So I just have my blank document. Now, to draw something like this, I would also want a guide, but all those guides in Procreate that it showed us, the isometric guide and the square grid guide, they're not quite what I would want. What I would want is like a radial guide that has a bunch of little circles that get bigger, and then in between those circles, divisions to draw in. So since the one that Procreate comes with isn't as cool as the one I would want to use, I downloaded the one that I want to use, and I put that in the Dropbox for the show notes here. So if you want to grab that, you're welcome to. You could print it out and put it under something and trace over it, or you could load it into an app like Procreate or Photoshop, like I'm going to do. So I'm just going to grab that image. You can download it again in the show notes off of Dropbox. I'm going to go to Add, and I'm going to insert file, and then let's see, I don't have the file, so I'm going to go to Dropbox and get the file like a tool. Let's go to Dropbox, BVAA, today, and then I'm going to export that, and I'm just going to save it. Save image. It's going to save it to my photos. So now it's going to be in my photo library. So if I go back to Procreate here, let's just cancel that and insert a photo. Now it's in my all photos here. So I'm just going to grab that from all photos, and it will drop this this template in the middle of the screen. Now we're pretending that this is paper. In Procreate, I can resize this to any size I want, and I'm gonna, right? And then switch off this tool to just accept that. So I'll go to my brush tool. So now this grid is radial. It's like that symmetrical tool that we were using, but it has these other little blocks inside it. I don't know if you can see it until I get really up on it, but there's little tiny triangle divisions in it too. So now to make the mandala and to make it symmetrical, all you have to do is draw your little shapes and doodles inside these little guide boxes, right? I know that it's kind of difficult to see, but so now what I have here is, if we look at our layers, we have a background layer, and then I've added this overlay layer, which is just going to be a guide for me. So I know it's difficult for you to see there, but for me to draw, I'm going to have to turn this down a little bit, right? It's going to distract me. There's too many lines in between these thicker lines that are going to get in my way. So I'm going to go to my layers panel, right? Ooh, let's get rid of that. Nope, not what I want. I'm going to go to my layers panel and make sure that I'm on the guide. Actually, let's just rename this real quick so I don't get lost. So I'm going to rename this layer to guide. That way we know it's the guide layer. Makes sense to do. I'm going to hit this little N button next to the guide layer, and that gives us the opacity slider. And this kind of lets us fade out the image so it's not so prominent on the screen. So it's just kind of, we can see it faintly underneath our work, right? So I'm gonna leave it up, I guess, so that you can see, because I'm noticing that as I turn that down, these inner lines start to disappear. So now I'm not going to use any of those assisted functions. So you could do this on just a pen and paper if you wanted to. Let's grab the brush tool. I'm going to grab, since I'm not going to do any sort of like funky filling with Procreate for this, I'm just going to grab a sketching pencil. So this is going to be like working on a pencil and paper. I think I was on the Procreate pencil. Yeah. Cool. So now we have a pencil. Let's make it fairly small. I'm just going to scratch up here. That's pencil sized. Let's change our color to black. Let me go back to the disk here because I like that. And then let's take another look at our colors, and let's make a new one to start drawing on, because I don't want to draw on the guide itself. So if you were doing this on paper, imagine you have your guide layer on the bottom, and then you have I don't know, tracing paper or something on top of that. That's what we're doing. We're adding a new layer on here, which would be like that tracing paper. It's completely transparent though. So now we have a guide and we have a brush, and we can start drawing. So what I've seen other people do is they usually start at the center. So let's make this circle, and I'm just gonna start, like, maybe put a couple of lines in that, and then in each one of these boxes going out, I want to make this pencil a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna take it down to maybe 3. I'm gonna just make some lines in here, and then I'll make this circle a real circle. And you can just start doing stuff. I don't like the pencil. I'm not going to use a pencil, so I'm going to use a pen. This sucks with a pencil. So let's go back to pens. So I guess if you're doing it at home on paper, I would recommend probably using a pen as opposed to a pencil, because that wasn't fun. So let's go to inking, and then I'm going to go back to that pen I like. Or a gel pen. That seems like a normal thing you'd have at home. So I'm going to use a gel pen. Let's see what that looks like. Looks like a pen. All right. So I'm going to start in the middle here with my gel pen, drawing it, drawing the circle. Actually, I'll fill it in a little like I would with a pen. And then inside of our little pizza table square thing, let's make triangles. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop. Those are triangles, right? Yeah. Yeah. Those are triangles with a diamond. I don't know how that happened, but whatever. Yeah, I'm advanced. I know shapes and shit. All right. So we're drawing in the middle of our mandala. And then I'm just going to use these little guides to draw in. I don't have to outline the guides. I'm just doing that because it feels very natural to me. So we'll put some leaves here. I'll just do a little stem and then a leaf. A little stem and then a leaf. Notice all the little ink dots it's leaving because I'm using a gel pen brush. That's how a gel pen would behave the way that I'm writing right now. It would leave those little blots of ink where I left the pen too long. That's interesting. I actually cannot stand this pen, so I really am going to go back to the pen that I know and love, which is the Studio pen. And now the whole thing behaves the way I expect it to, and the way that I want, the way that my hand just kind of wants it to. It's more like a marker, maybe. It's like I don't know, but the brush matters a real lot, as far as not just the look, but the way it feels to draw, the way it feels important in all of the art stuff. Like, you can learn how to play guitar or fucking clarinet. You can learn how to draw. the technical stuff. But I mean, to get to the good stuff, it's you got to be able to let yourself feel it. Feel the way that the brush strokes come out. I've been watching people draw on YouTube and whatnot, and they say they pull their lines. They don't draw lines, they pull lines. They have the line defined in their mind before they connect it to wherever it's going. And as I'm drawing with these different pens, I'm feeling the way that they respond to me and my hand and the way that I hold the pen. So they're going to obviously be super personal to you. I really like this studio pen though. It's cool. So I undid too many times. Just draw it back in. And now I'm going to keep drawing around, making shapes. So there's a couple shapes I learned. I was like trying to, I didn't want to come across like I know what I'm doing here at all. So I was doing some research and trying to just learn like basic shapes. I read about some Zentangle stuff to see some of the lines and shapes and techniques that they use. And that was interesting. And I learned about these little leaf shapes where you make just a line and then kind of, like a leaf or the flame of a lighter. That's easy to make. It's just a little doodle. Doing little dots like this is actually kind of cool. It looks stupid at first, but check this out. Let's zoom in. I'm going to make a circle around our flower as good as I can. And then I'm going to, well, no, we're pretending that this is pencil and paper, so I'm not going to use the Procreate tricks. But that's my my circle that I drew along our guide here. You can still see in our layers we have, oh no, this is terrible. So what's happened here is I think I probably, sometimes when I'm drawing and I undo things, I undo too far. And when we created our new layer here, I probably undid that. And we've been drawing on the guide, which is Bad News Bears. Womp, womp, womp. So let's see, what can we do about that? I don't think much. Let's just start over. So, oh well, I'm going to go back. Could also, well, I couldn't even clear the layer because I want to retain the guide, right? The guide is an important part of this. So all that we're drawing, this is like the monks, again, flushing away all the work in the river at the end of the week. It's all impermanent. And it's, the more you do it, the faster and probably better at it you become. I'm already way more proficient than I was, 3 days ago. And that was the first time I made one, so I'm pretty confident that if this is the type of thing you want to spend time on, that you could definitely do it, at least as good as this, which isn't saying much, but I mean, it does look cool at the end. Even if you make a ton of mistakes, it doesn't really matter. And your lines will get more fluid and you'll learn more shapes and techniques. Did I do the same thing again? No, all right, good. So now I'm just double checking before I go too far, making sure that our background color is on one layer and our guide is on another layer and our actual drawing is, you can kind of tell from the thumbnail here it's just our pen strokes on a transparent layer. So that's exactly what we want. And this is good. This is good. I like where we're going. We have a flowery thing. And let's do some diamondy things around the flowery thing. Again, this is way cheaper than art school. You can just make some things. And really the only rule there is that if it looks cool, it is cool. And nobody can tell you otherwise. And the best part about that whole situation is you get to define what looks cool. That does not look cool. I don't know where that got lost, but let's go back to the point where it fell off, and then we'll just make some more things around there. And then let's circle that. And then I was going to show you about the little circly dot things and how helpful they are. So here we are. We've got our little flowery thing, and then we've got a little sunburst of triangles around it. And now in this area between the sunburst and the this circle that this is almost circle looking thing, we just want to fill in all this blank space with something. So I'm just gonna fill it with little circles, little like different shaped like marbles. I'm just doing a little doop doop doobie doo doo doo. We're drawing marbles all day long. Do 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 do. Drawing the marbles, we're getting along. Saturday morning, we're singing our song, and we're drawing a mandala today. Do 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 do. We're drawing a mandala today. So you get the point. You can fill the guide areas each with just little circles, little dots, little pebbles. And when you scale out and look at a large image that's been created that way, you don't focus on any of the imperfections in it. It just looks like a ton of detail. So that's very cool. This is how we would draw this mandala on paper. So you use some kind of a guide, or you could create this guide if you had a compass or cups, or just varying sized circles, and then just try to be symmetrical about cutting that into quarters or eighths or sixteenths or however it is you want to divide your work. So if we keep doing this, let's just for fun turn on our assisted drawing and symmetry and see how fast this comes to life. I know you can't do this in real life, and I'm sorry about that, but sometimes fake life is better than real life. It's just the way it is. That's why we watch TV. So this is interesting. I am only drawing in the wrong spot. Let's go back and make sure I got my guide right. Edit my drawing guide, symmetry, options. Oh, we want to be radial. And we got assisted drawing on, and it looks like, let's turn off our drawing layer. Let's just look at the guide and the symmetry guide. It looks like we're not centered here. So let's take our guide, and I'm going to grab this move tool. Let's just move it until the guide is aligned properly. Obviously, you don't do this on a piece of paper because you can't. Womp womp. Paper loses again. Paper loses to rock, yo. Now we grab a pen. Let's go on to our layer. Let's turn that back on. See how it's off center now? Womp womp. Let's just clear it. Let's delete it even and make a new layer for our new work. And now we have both things going on. We've got the Procreate grid. This is the little iPad mouse thing. It's getting in my way. We have the Procreate grid, and we have our other guide here. I'm not sure that you can even see the smaller guide, but you know what it is. You can download it in the show notes. So now we're working with two different guides, and we have, let's make sure our assisted drawing is turned on. Symmetry options, assisted drawing on. Boom. And now I'm gonna start with the circle in the middle. I'm gonna do another circle here, and then we'll do one bigger circle here. Connect it. That was not connecting. This is how we connect things. Okay. So now you'll see if I go into each of these little what was that game when you had this wheel thing and you filled it up with the little slices until you won? It was a board game. I don't remember what it's called. Well, you have that, and we can just draw those little circles. Boop, 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 and fill up our little marble cup. That's what I'm thinking of this as, is a little like a party cup Jen says this was Trivial Pursuit that had the game pieces like that. Is that still a game people play? People still play Trivial Pursuit? It's trivia, right? I only see it at restaurants. I'm no good at it. And it's usually like really old trivia too. Like nobody knows about this anymore. This trivia is not very trivial. And you can see how a lot of little circles can turn into something that looks like a lot more than just that, right? It looks like a texture at this point and not just noise, which is how it's kind of started. So as we zoom out, now we have all those little things, and we can put our leaves up here. Let's do some of them. Bam. And we'll do another one here. Bam, a double leaf. Woo-wee. Let's do a bigger one. Bam. All right, cool. Now in between our leafy things, we'll do some circle-y thing. Ooh, I'm right now modifying that. Accidentally. That was a happy accident. It just let me change the shape of my leaf because I kept my pencil down too long. So it was trying to help me straighten my lines and stuff. And here we go. Right now I have this animation assistant on. Let's turn that off. I must have hit that by mistake. All right. So now we have this situation. And let's just keep going. Keep drawing stuff. Squiggly. Squiggly. I like the way that it starts to look like ancient rune type stuff when you do squigglies, like hieroglyphics. And I like the way that just making simple lines can make such ornate patterns so quickly. Like, this is really fun. I know that paint by numbers and stuff are super popular right now. A lot of people are doing like not just paint, but the bead art and stuff too. And with tools like this, you can essentially create all your own. You could do this. You can make this in Procreate on your couch while you're watching HBO's hit series Oz from 1997. And you could create your own coloring books. Right? So print this out in black and white, and then if you have colored pencils, you could color it in yourself, and you wouldn't have to buy those books. Not that I don't think coloring books are expensive, but still, look at that. And if you spend your time doing this and practicing like different types of brush strokes, I'm sure there's techniques that are learnable skills, right? It's not like you can draw or you can't, or you can sing or you can't, or any of those things. These are all skills that you can learn. It's just not easy. Right? There's dedication that it takes. Or you have to kind of really want to, or be broken enough inside that you need the attention for whatever reason. So you can be, I mean, if you want to be a better artist, all you have to do is suffer. That's it. And then you'll be better. Filling in some of the lines here. So I wish I could have done this in high school. My book covers would have been so much cooler then. I just had like corn lyrics incorrectly spelled on my book covers. I would sit in the back, and I played with all the girls' hair in school. That was my like relaxy thing. I'd do braids and like try and learn how to do not knots, but different kind of like weaves, stitches and stuff out of their hair. And yeah, I would do that. I would play with their hair, and then I would like brood in my desk and draw on my books and on the desk itself. Horrible lyrics about horrible things that don't make any sense to me today. I lost my pencil. What happened? It was in my hand. I didn't go anywhere. My pencil's gone. Oh, there it is. All right, we're back, and we're back. It's just let me keep a watch on the time. Actually, it is 11:59. We got about an hour left. We're going to take another break now, and then when we come back, I'm going to show you how to set up Photoshop so that you could do this same thing in Photoshop. And it's I say it's the same thing. It's the same tools and techniques, but you can get very different results because Photoshop actually gives you more options in the symmetry dialog. You have more kinds of symmetries you can do. So we're going to take another break, and then when we come back in 15 minutes, we're going to jump into Photoshop and we're going to draw some more. It's going to be awesome. And I'll see you there. Bye-bye.